as we move on to our second founder presentation, there's actually few people in this room that I feel more deeply connected to in this ecosystem than our next speaker. I feel like we've walked a path side by side as new investors and first-time founder. And I know I speak on behalf of the whole GRASS team when I say meeting Cole, Ramin, Mike, and the rest of the IntelliCulture team has been one of the high points of our last year. They embodied everything we were looking for, and thanks to Joe and RHA, we were able to partner and become one of their first investors. Just closing a round of funding valued at $1.7 million, I'm proud to announce and introduce Cole Powers, sharing why investments matter.
Yeah, thanks, Katie and Grass and everyone here. Really, it's a true pleasure to be here. And as Katie mentioned, hopefully I'll be able to bring a bit of a lens and as to why investment has been so critical. Specifically, right here in this room, with as Katie mentioned, Grass and RHA really being our first investors in our pre-seed round. Really excited to chat today about IntelliCulture and how that's been absolutely instrumental in how we've grown the business. So with that, I'll dive on in here, and just to set the stage a little bit, I'm going to go over a brief overview of what it is that we actually do at IntelliCulture. I find I have a very short attention span. I'm usually one of the kind of guys who likes to kind of get to the point of like what it is that you actually do rather than the big long build up. So we'll get that point out of the way so that we can talk about the journey of IntelliCulture and the team here and how we've been able to walk side by side with the Grass team. So with that, the high-level nuts and bolts, really, of what we do at IntelliCulture is we're working to automate the farm management process. And myself, I'm one of the co-founders of the company, the CEO on paper. What that really means is I'm just the guy out talking with the growers, because that's what I love to do every day. But before I dive in, I think it's really important to set the stage about the problem it is that we're actually solving. As Sean mentioned in his investment discussion, one of the most important things that we really value is being able to bring ROI to the grower on day one. And so the problem that we actually addressed was grafted out of working with local growers here in Ontario. And that's that these farms were losing millions of dollars every year due to preventable mistakes. We found out that folks like Skylar Farms down in Simcoe, they're managing hundreds of employees, and they're often running that through whiteboards or phone calls. And there's a ton of time being sunk into the operation that can be automated out to prevent mistake in how that farm is running. And also improving that efficiency in the long term. So with that, that's why we really do work to simplify that farm management process. So first off, we have these plug-and-play GPS units that growers install into the machine around their farm. Whether that's a tractor, a side-by-side, a pickup truck, basically anything on wheels is how we frame it. And the hardware really isn't the innovation here. This is an off-the-shelf device that we outfit and we build software around for our growers. So folks can install this in a couple of minutes. It plugs right into the tractor. And then from there, they're actually able to monitor recommendations through our equipment management software. And ideally, like every other ag tech company out there, we help improve the farm through actionable insights. Specifically, we try to save our growers time and money in how they're running their farm. A little bit more tangibly what that looks like though, and where the actual value is, we break down into a few different facets of how we run our software. First and foremost, our growers love our CapView application. Think about this as a very lightweight spray monitoring system. So because we have these devices installed into all the machines on the farm, their operators can now launch up on their mobile device or a quick screen in the cab and see in real time where their operators have sprayed and if there's been any areas missed. So digging in a little deeper, like Constellation Brands, one of our customers, for example, they might be running 4 operators out in the field applying chemicals to their vineyard. In the past, they would be often going to fill out mix tanks and have to go and re-enter that vineyard, hoping that they know exactly where they left so that they can re-enter at the same point. But they had no visibility into like how where they had left before. So with CapView now, they have a real-time input as to where everyone is, so that there's no risk of overspraying their vineyard, nor is there risk of missing a row that can turn into a mildew outbreak in that high-value crop. From there, the data flows into our Shopview Portal. And this is essentially the back end of the software that folks like Dave Pethram are using as the operation manager behind the scenes of the farm. And the goal of Shopview is really to help these growers optimize what labor efforts they do have on the farm. I think it's no surprise or shortage that labor is a huge challenge for these growers in the industry right now. And we're seeing that across the board. And so we really want to try to help our growers make the most of the folks that they do have on the farm through automated job progress monitoring. So because we have these devices plugged in, what we're able to do is track the completion of all the tasks on the farm and spin out automated reporting so that growers no longer need to call around to their operators to make sure that jobs were done. Instead, they'll get a quick report the next morning with a very quick view as to how their spray coverage looked, for example. So launching into the Shopview Portal here, you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. We boil down a lot of efficiency metrics, but without a doubt, the thing that our growers like the most is this automated coverage mapping. So in the example of Constellation Brands, they're able to look every morning now and see that they have 4 or 5 different machines out applying chemicals to their vineyard, and they can see that the full vineyard was covered in a completely passive fashion. They don't need to worry about uptake, operator adoption. It's just completely running in the background. And then finally, where IntelliCulture actually started from a software perspective, it was our Shopview Portal. And this is really around machinery and fleet health on the farm. Myself, and I'll give you a little bit of background of myself and the co-founding team and the whole investment trajectory, but we came from the automotive industry. And so when we went out and talked with growers in the early stages of IntelliCulture, without a doubt, one of the resounding requests that we had was a very simple way to manage service scheduling and machine health on the farm, especially in these high-value crops where you're running upwards of 50 machines sometimes on the farm. They wanted to be able to track their maintenance management so that we can remind them when they have an oil change coming due, as well as maximizing the farm safety. So again, from these little devices, we can let growers know if they have speeding events on their farm to then have those discussions with their operators to encourage better safe practices in the operation. And again, making it, hopefully looking at from a very simple angle of just highlighting what machines have overdue tasks on them, and then boiling that into a simple report here that summarizes the health of that fleet. So every Monday morning, our growers receive what you see on the left here, where they'll get a summary of all the diagnostic codes and check engine lights on their tractors, if there's anything going wrong with them, what's upcoming, and what's overdue from a maintenance perspective. Our domain is really contained right now in fleet management on the farm and automating the time that goes into that. So taking a very large step back there, again, just to sort of set the stage and just start the dialogue so that everyone knows what we do. That's IntelliCulture software in a nutshell. What we've seen through case studies right now and sort of across the board averaging it out is about an 4x ROI to the grower. So to the point of we really want to make sure that this software provides value on day one, we really do stand behind this and make sure that what we're generally seeing is about a 4x return by looking at the total cost of this system running on the farm compared to the realized savings within that first year of operation. With that, I'm going to transition now into the impact of investment on IntelliCulture's journey. I'll provide a little bit more background and context. I also forgot to say this at the start, but I really like to have these a little bit more back and forth dialogue. So if there are questions, I don't know if that's allowed, Katie, but please just raise a hand. I'm always happy to chat and kind of go ad hoc here. I perform much better under the dialogue as opposed to a really rehearsed presentation. So please do welcome questions throughout. Yeah, no problem. HubSpot is trying to make its appearance yet again. It knows that we use Pipedrive, which is a competitor of HubSpot. Anywho, jumping back though into really the impact of investment on our trajectory, the 3 items that I do want to highlight are kind of up on the screen here. And for us, it really boiled down to investment is so much more than just capital into the business. And I saw Rob had 3 really eloquent points as well. And it's kind of funny at church this weekend, the sermon had 3 key takeaways. I think it's a trend here. You've got 3 main ideas. But for us, the one of the biggest ones is we're a bunch of young bucks coming from a technical background. Like a number of folks had mentioned, we were part of that brain drain down to the States as a co-founding team originally. And we know technology quite well, but what we didn't know is this ag ecosystem. And so Katie and Grass and Joe and the RHA crew, investing in our pre-seed round really expanded our network. And I think it's been a very common theme and thread here of just wrapping around that business expertise into the companies that are hopefully going to make an impact in the industry. So without a doubt, our investment from the folks here has really vastly expanded our network as young entrepreneurs. We're trying to come in as a very humble group of folks who don't know what the heck we're doing, and we built our first product for farms here in Ontario, and we want to continue to take that stance. And without the investment and the mentorship around us, we would not be able to do that. Second, and this is a very related point, is really the guidance that comes out of it. So as we went through that RHA programming, led by Joe and Brian and David Bilson there, they took us basically 0 to 1. So we started out and again, we were tech guys. We had a product that we'd built for a couple of farms that they were realizing value, but we had no idea how to run a business. We were fortunate enough to have that RHA crew sit down with us and go through under the hood of how to set up your KPIs and architect your founding team to run a corporation and think about the monetary impacts and the actual impact that your business is having beyond just the technology. So that has been, again, critical. We're leveraging investors in our mentorship for folks that have gone through the process before. They've made the mistakes, and we're trying to learn from their mistakes so that we can do it a little bit faster and continue growing IntelliCulture to have impact in the industry. And then finally, and this was a big one too, we've also found that investment really helps build trust in two realms for us. On one hand, some of our larger customers, when they hear that we have pre-seed and now seed investment, that actually gives them a lot of comfort that we're here to stay. We're not a startup company that's a huge risk to outfit their farm and spend some money to outfit our software that we then disappear within a year. As soon as we closed our seed round, it was funny, a few of the large deals that we had sort of pending closed very quickly because of that trust element. Beyond that, it also gives us trust in ourselves. What investment has really let us do at IntelliCulture is have the buffer and the space to breathe to focus on the business again, as opposed to chasing government grants all the time, for example. Of course, we're still always actively bringing in funding and making sure that the business is in a good financial spot, but it allowed us to go out and spend money on trade shows that we knew were going to yield an ROI that we might not have had that upfront capital to pursue initially. So this season, for example, with closing out our pre-seed and now our seed round, we've been flying around to trade shows nonstop, and we've had a ton of great business come out of it. And that wouldn't have been possible without the trust in ourselves from the investment that we did procure. And so to highlight that, I'm a bit of a numbers guy now. So just to put some numbers to that, I did want to do a quick year in review of like some of the KPIs that we track after procuring our pre-seed investment with Grass and RHA. So about a year ago, we had about 100 machines running the software. We had 2 growers, and we were really on a beta product. It was a super hacky system, admittedly. Like, our reporting worked really, really well, but we had some really great innovative growers that had a ton of patience with us. Fast forward a year, and we've actually 4x the number of machines under our management. We've about 10x our growers that we're working with right now, and we have a full equipment management software baked into the world now, which we're really, really happy and excited about. And again, coming back to that, those 3 elements that I had mentioned, but also the capital from that pre-seed round really enabled us to do that. We were able to get my CTO to quit his job at GM to come full-time at IntelliCulture and double down on developing our software and getting feedback from our growers integrated into our system. And now we have it deployed with large farms down in the States, and I don't have to stay awake at night thinking, is it going to work for this grower? Because we had that patient capital that, again, I think Sean highlighted in his presentation in the model of Emertech, that we had that patient capital up front to develop a fully baked solution that growers can trust and rely on when they're making their business decisions. And as we mentioned, we're also now ventured back by the Emertech team. So it's just a compounding of those net benefits that do come out of that ecosystem and that investment lens. How am I doing for time, Katie? I know we kind of are. I'm fine. All right, cool. This is actually pulled from our investment deck, but I think that this is one really important slide that I really do like to include, because we've been fortunate enough to work with some really innovative growers who have, again, they directly informed the software as we built it. And so this is always really at the forefront of our mind now, is working with our growers, how they're using and why they need our software. And Skylar and Constellation, 2 very different producers, but sort of similar tune, gave us some really great feedback on that. Skylar, when we asked them how they're using their software, it's really exciting to see now that they're using the mapping to show where their orchard tractors have sprayed, be able to see if a block was missed. They look at their daily reports to see where equipment has been, and the weekly reports to stay on top of oil changes and know about the check engineers, and they equate that to about saving $20,000 in a season there. Constellation Brands is a Fortune 500 company. They own like Corona, Modelo, some of the largest wine and spirits in the industry. And we were fortunate enough to go through a really great needs analysis with them before we outfitted their farms with our software. So when we were doing that needs analysis, we asked them, like, why are you even looking at us? Why are you looking at small town Ontario startup to go and outfit your Fortune 500 company's operations for business intelligence? And what they said blew us away. They said that they're currently just driving out to rows to see if they've sprayed for mildew versus somehow proactively proving the ability to see that a block was missed. They had tried investing in aerial imagery, but it had failed because it only shared that information after harvest and after they lost millions of dollars of grapes. To me, that was a huge, humble moment that Constellation Brands has the same problems that our growers in our backyard have. And that was really, really exciting for me to hear, having started IntelliCulture, that we can help to try and solve that problem on a global scale now. And so with that, we were really excited to announce that we did secure a statewide expansion with Constellation. So within 10 months, we actually 10x the contract value and now are outfitted on all of their vineyards in California. Oh, thanks. I wasn't expecting a clap or any sort of reaction there, but anyways, that's enough about IntelliCulture. It's kind of like the journey to where we've gotten there. Is there any questions at all before I kind of trudge through, talk a little bit about our founding team and sort of what the future holds, why we're super excited about our seed round? Yeah.
Besides vineyards and that kind of crop, what else are you looking at? What's the next big thing? Greenhouse or the big commodity?
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. Thanks, Tyler. And it segues into the sort of future slides, which is perfect. You teed me right up. So right now, vineyards are really our beachhead, largely because of that Constellation Brands. They're a really great trusted name that we can go now to the Gallos and the Delicados of the industry and lean into that as a use case. That said, where we find we work really well right now is in permanent or fixed tree operations. So apples, cherries, vineyards, tree nuts, all share that sort of same foundational problem that we're hearing around labor management on their operation. Beyond that, we're starting to now get some growers in the specialty crop that are still row crop. So looking at leafy greens and spinach producers, we have a couple of big growers down in the Salinas Valley that are realizing some significant savings just for managing like idle times and shift time changing. And then we do have a couple of growers in the cash crop space. But so that was a very like political and broad answer to your question. But I would say right now, main focus for the foreseeable future, our target is really in that high value crop space, growing a little bit into specialty crop, and then hopefully growing into bigger ag eventually. And we do have a bit of an automation lens that we're looking at that I'll touch on a little bit later. Perfect. So transition kind of like the last, I guess, section of the presentation here. Just to touch on a little bit of the founding team background. You've heard a ton from me, and I'm one of the co-founders. Michael and Ramin are the other co-founders of the company that I'm really pleased to say are my business partners, but also my best friends. We all met at the University of Waterloo when we were just starting out our studies in the automotive sector. And we were really fortunate to work at companies like GM and Tesla. Like we were part of that brain drain that we were talking about this morning. So I feel a little bit like uniquely qualified to see some of the lens of what's happened with that employment and brain shifting, if you will. We got tired of the automotive industry. Like I grew up in Brooklyn, Ontario, surrounded by agriculture. And the way I often describe it is close enough to agriculture that I had vested interest, not enough that I was working the farm every year. But what that did do is I got super apathetic towards the automotive space, and I love these guys, and we knew that we wanted to work together. And so that's when we started out discussing this idea of IntelliCulture. We had no idea what it was going to be, but we called a whole bunch of farms here in Ontario, Saskatchewan, down in the States, and a few of them picked up our phone and said, yeah, sure, come on out to our farm. Let's talk about the problems that I have with my tractor. And that turned into our coverage reports, which now has evolved into our equipment management software. In terms of where we're going, though, Tyler, to answer your question a little bit more explicitly here, we have some pretty explicit goals informed by RHA and their whole VTO and EOS coaching that they've done for us. So within 3 years, really the goal for us is to become a respected farm management software in that high value crop space. We really want to be the go-to name in the vineyards and the orchard sector of who and how they manage their crops with. With that, the technology, what we're really excited about is growing into some more like AI recommendations around operations alerting. So right now our growers are receiving daily and automated reports around their spray practices, but we really do want to start working with other companies now to get more sophisticated in our alerting and more forward thinking of how they can leverage their machines on their farm. We have a ton of awesome use cases of how farms are looking at machine turnover in their operation because of the information that they're using IntelliCulture for. And we want to bake that right into the software to help provide that benchmarking and insight. And then finally, we do want to be continuing to generate a bunch of revenue. That's the name of the game at the end of the day with the investment realm. Within 10 years, though, our absolute intention is to be a global brand. We want to be the go-to name in farm data management. And we really see our system evolving into an intelligent system that's performing those low-level management decisions for the grower. We want to elevate farms so that they can have more time in their day to get back to the things that they love, which is farming. And so with that, really what we see at IntelliCulture is that equipment is just the beginning of this whole shift and journey that we're on. We started with equipment probably because of our automotive background, admittedly. But also a big diffusing factor for that was equipment does a lot of the work on the farm. And so that gives us touch points into all realms of how these farms are operating their businesses. It also, though, lays the foundation for farm automation is a core thesis of what we have. So it's no question that whether growers like it or not, the industry is shifting and automation is starting to come into the space. But the big underpinning thesis of IntelliCulture is that automation needs a bunch of ground truth data of how these farms are running, and the farms are still going to need to manage those robots. So the thought and the thesis behind what we're doing is that if farms are gaining the comfort to manage their operation through our IntelliCulture software, and they're seeing value today, as we saw from those testimonials, what that's hopefully going to do is ease that transition into other technologies as they come to the farm. They'll have the comfort to manage those robots through IntelliCulture and still have that centralized, comfortable visibility into their operation. And so with that, that's really how we're trying to unify the value on the farm of technology and as it diffuses out into the field. Again, Cool Powers, really happy to be here and super grateful for the opportunity and the welcoming arms of everyone in this room as we've been continuing to grow our journey here. Thanks again. Yeah, and yeah, Tyler, I see another question.
More questions from Tyler.
Well, it's interesting stuff. I can't just contain it. So, Cole, my question is around carbon credits. Have you monitored your carbon impact based on, better equipment performance or no overlaps or whatever it is? And are you do you see that as a revenue opportunity?
Yeah, I think if anything, it might be a revenue opportunity for the grower, more so than us. We have some farms that are actually leveraging the software towards that realm. We don't do it out of the software right now, but like a few of our larger producers down in the Salinas Valley, for example, they've got multiple hundreds of machines that are running, and one of the biggest alerts that they like for us is just idling. And so we're actually able to track machine idle time and just overall fuel usage, and then they abstract that out to carbon credit gain by diminishing that through behavioral change. So it's certainly possible. I'd be lying to you, Tyler, if I said that it's in the software right now, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity in that respect. Just trying to pick our battles right now, though.
And measuring the before and after impact, though, what that farm data is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like an offset.
Yeah.
You're improving your practice. So.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thanks, folks.
Thanks so much, Cole, for sharing that journey with us. And it certainly has been a journey, and quite often a physical journey too. I know that on many occasions, Cole's in California, Cole's in Montreal, Cole's in Aurora. Where is Cole? We're going to start a new spin-off book, not Where is Waldo, literally, where is Cole in this journey? But when it comes to sort of commitment and asking mentors and having that support, I have to share a short personal reflection. One day, Cole was dropping in to see our space, and Cole arrived with Mike and Ramin and sat down in the boardroom, and it was one of the most intimidating conversations I think I've ever had in an hour, because they came with a list, and that list was all the things that Cole thought that through myself, through the Grass Network, through all of the different pieces that we could help with. And all of a sudden, I think that was the defining moment of realizing that a lot of these funding relationships are so much more than that. That, at Grass, we don't have big dollars to spend. We could do with a few more zeros to keep up with John and Sean. But that with the board of directors and the incredible people that are connected to our little ecosystem, that there's an opportunity to enforce some change. And that's why I challenge everybody in the room today. I know that there's some investors sat here that also don't have those massive dollars to spend, but you have a passion and you have a network, and both of those things bring incredible opportunity to some of the young founders, right, Joe?